Not today, not today, not tomorrow. Get out my way, please. I'm trying to get paid. Not today, not today.
Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of the College Football Weekly board meeting. It's your host, Kevin, Seth, and Steve, as always. Hope you boys are doing well. Listen, it was a we talked about it going into last week. It was a marquee matchup weekend, right? There was a lot of, I think it was 7 or 8 matchups between ranked opponents. So it was a marquee matchup weekend. Coming out on the other side of it, I really want to get your guys' thoughts on just some high-level takeaways too. But I don't want to say disappointed, but I was expecting maybe a little more chaos, or maybe hoping for a little more chaos than we got. You know, again, big marquee matchups, but no like meltdowns by any of the top teams. Seth, what was your big takeaway from the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting take. I mean, I still the idea in my mind hasn't kind of gone away, which is there's really no top dog. Like, yeah, the Michigans went and beat up Nebraska. Like, everybody that played lower competition did what they were supposed to do. But yeah, like who these teams are, I'm not exactly sure that there's like, 4 teams that are for sure going to make the playoff. That's still a little bit unknown for me. And then as we get deeper and deeper in conference play, like I think some of that, chaos may be starting here, especially this year, because the talent I think is a little bit more evenly distributed.
Yeah. Steve, what about you, man?
Yeah, no, I echo that. I love that Oregon State Utah game. That was one that was personally on my radar. And I think the Pac-12 is real. I think that is definitely something that I love there. And then, SC Colorado, I think something I both talked about that. Didn't really expect a blowout like we did with Oregon, and that came to fruition. So Pac-12, RIP, this is definitely the year of greatness. So I'm excited to see what happens later on in the year.
So not quite on the opposite side of it or nothing like that, but whereas, we've been talking about and propping up the Pac-12 for a few weeks now, I'm getting like the opposite vibes from the SEC almost, where you don't have teams like the Georgias or the Alabamas just absolutely crushing competition so far and just like standing out both here on the matchup maps and elsewhere. You have a bunch of teams that are basically all clumped together, no outliers anymore. So that's been a fascinating development for me personally in the SEC. Like who's gonna step up and take it? Georgia, most likely, but
yeah, it's got to be Georgia just because of pathway. But like even they might stumble, right? Even that, like Tennessee took a huge step back. I mean, Alabama not in the quadrant of elite is wild. Can they get any continuity with Milroe? Like, I don't know. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about that game. 3-point spread. This was a 24-point spread last year. And Milroe started. Remember, Bryce Young was injured. So very interesting. LSU's disappointing, but like, yeah, I agree. The SEC in this powerhouse, maybe not, but we're just kind of getting going. So maybe, the new Georgia quarterback needs some time to get good, but I don't know. I mean, I'm with you. Like there's the top dogs don't really feel as top this year.
Yeah, I'll take it a step further. There is no way anyone out of the SEC is going undefeated this year, including Georgia. I mean, we've had 2 games now where Georgia really should have dominated against a South Carolina team. They won by 10. And then this Auburn game, I mean, that game was tied with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Yeah. If Brock Bowers didn't go off Brock Bowers, we have a very completely different look on this Georgia team. So it's only a matter of time before they slip up. But I'm with you guys.
And it might be this week. I mean, we're going to talk about it. Kentucky looks good. That we're getting a little bit in the deep weeds there, but like, I don't know. I mean, I don't. I think I would say though LSU feels the most disappointing. I don't know if you guys would agree. I mean, this team had so much hype. I mean, we did our preseason preview. That the questions that we were getting was, LSU to win the national championship, let alone the SEC, and it's like they're already sitting at 2 losses.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Interesting.
All right, let's not. I know you mentioned it. You teased it a couple times. We're going to talk about some of the matchups going into week 6 here, but let's talk about real quick model predictions from week 5 and what happened. So it went 3-3, another 500 weekend. It was interesting. The ones that we covered on Michigan, absolute no sweat whatsoever. That was pretty chalk from the early go. the Penn State one, we just had to laugh about that one. Another backdoor for the good guys, right? Like
Yeah,
that's twice this year. The coach just he's got the spread like on the top of his fucking play sheet, man. He knows what to do.
I'm here for it. I'm here
I'm
for it.
100% I am. Yeah. And then the Oklahoma game, I don't know if either of you got to watch that game, but luckily we
Yeah.
covered there as well.
Yeah, no, it was a good game. Oklahoma pretty much dominated. That box score isn't even reflective. They blocked a punt that should have been a touchdown. It ended up getting kicked out of bounds, and that was a safety rather than a touchdown. Pick six on the first drive, and then they gave up an explosive on the very next drive to kind of to null and void that pick six. But now this was a pretty much Oklahoma all the way, full on dominance. And then Fresno State, I didn't get to see it. It was quite late here in the East Coast, but 11-second backdoor. I mean, we're right there. I mean, this is variance 101.
Yeah, 100%. So if my memory serves, someone fact check me on this real quick, but I think year to date, the college model is sitting at 26 and 29.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, it's right, almost right at 50%. And
Right.
remember, week 3? We didn't get to really use the model. We basically were using the model on a Wednesday because we couldn't bet any of the opens. So,
Yep,
it's basically around 50%. And yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's a lot of runway left here, as you can see. I mean, or we're going to talk about. I mean, 9 games this week. I mean, the volume is your friend here, and in theory can combat variance. So I'm excited to see what it can do in the future. But no, I mean, these weeks aren't crazy to handle. I mean, right, you're 11 seconds from going 4-2. You have variance, you go 3-3. Like, this is why closing line value is so important, right? Because technically speaking, if we're seeing enough closing line value, we're betting into a 50-50 market. And so even if we're right at 50-50 at the season, we should be right around break even. So, I mean, yeah, I think this is par for the course so far.
Yeah, no harm, no foul, really, as far as I'm concerned here. So let's get into
Before we go
to
the match of the weekly, can we go back to the matchup map? I want to talk about the ACC real quick, and Florida State. So Florida State kind of, like, they didn't play last week, so they're off a bye. Clemson, they've fumbled away 2 wins. Are we for sure that one of those 2 teams is going to win the ACC? I mean, Louisville's making a lot of noise. Miami, you can see where Miami's here. Like, I really want to go on the record and say this. I think Florida State is going to lose to either Duke, Miami, or Florida, if not more than one of those teams. I do think that's going to happen in this season.
That's interesting. Yeah, the Duke part of the equation, I personally didn't see coming. I don't think a lot of people did either. And they played a very good game. They were right there against Notre Dame. I mean, Notre Dame had that 95, 96-yard drive to win it at the end of the game. So they were, yeah. So they were right there. And that team is going to continue to be a problem in the ACC for sure. So I don't think you're putting yourself out that much on the limb there, Seth. I think that's not really that.
But I mean, would it be crazy if we see a Miami or a Louisville win the ACC? I mean, it would be a little bit gnarly, no?
Yeah, I mean, really, it'd be long overdue. I'm all about that. Now, I will say, to play devil's advocate, the one thing potentially going in Florida State's way is that per PFF, they've had the 8th hardest schedule in NCAA D1, and they go down to 91st, whereas Louisville, Duke, Miami all went from way easier schedules to up in the mid 30s. Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. But I'm with you, man. This door is wide open.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a really interesting, like we've already kind of hit it over and over, but like, no one's wanting to be really, really dominant this year. And I would still put that for a Florida State team that was like all of the rage at the beginning of the season, and they've barely made it out of alive. Clemson, and then the week before, Boston College. Do you guys know? I know the Duke quarterback got hurt on the last game of the play. Do you guys know if he's okay or what ended up happening? Is that going to be a season-ending injury? I didn't get a chance to follow that up. But
I have not seen that at all. So
it was a kind of a sad way for that game to end. I mean, he basically got taken down, his knee got buckled, and he was in the tent. But I don't know. I mean, that obviously changes the competitiveness of that Duke team, but they're good. I mean, they could have easily won that game against Notre Dame.
Oh yeah, 100%. I haven't seen anything. I'm just gonna check out the injury report. Shout out unabated. See if they got anything scraping off.
Oh yeah. Smart. Yeah, unabated
so
injury report for the win.
One last comment. I mean, having no skin in the game as far as like who my team is or whatever. I'm enjoying the parody, so to speak, if you will. I mean, the fact that it's not a quote unquote foregone conclusion that Georgia or whomever Alabama's going to run away with this. Like, I like this. This is more exciting in my opinion. So
yeah, and it may be more of what's to come here in the the recent or the near future. 12-game playoff coming next year. Like, the more parity there is, the more competitive these games are, and the better the quality is. And quite frankly, basically, the closer we get to another NFL.
Which it's not a bad model to try and copy. I'll tell you.
Yeah. And just to close the loop on that. So looks like Riley had a high ankle sprain, so he's been diagnosed with. Unknown the greater severity just yet, but potentially looking between 6 to 8 weeks. Depending on how severe it is. So
gotcha.
Not
severe, but not an ACL, right? He could come back this season. But obviously he's that team I'm sure to some extent goes as he goes. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that.
Okay. Yep. All right, let's talk about a couple of key matchups heading into week 6 here. So first up, let's go through Kentucky and Georgia, and kind of mentioned it, kind of tease it a little bit. Georgia not as dominating as one would presume going into or through 5 weeks of the season, and Kentucky, if you have been paying attention, are quietly kind of have been dominating their competition in their own right. So 2 undefeated teams. I think Kentucky's number 20, maybe, if I'm not mistaken, ranked in the country at the moment. So is this the week where Georgia, you think, finally gets upset, Steve?
I mean, it's hard for me to say that they are going to get full blown upset, but it's wide open. It's wide open. I think the cover is absolutely in play. What you're looking at here is, especially go back to the matchup map, you're looking at 2 teams who are both firmly cemented in that quadrant of elite. With Kentucky having the better defense as measured, you can see the defensive EPA per play back on the other chart was, Kentucky's in that negative range. They just kind of snuck in there. And we talked last week when Michigan was the only team in NCAA that had a negative defensive EPA per play, how hard that is to do in college. And lo and behold, here's Kentucky as well. So you look at these teams, I mean, these are really 2 good, punch for punch teams. Now, clearly Georgia has the better success rate on offense, but, I can't see 2 touchdowns here. So I'm definitely rooting blue on Kentucky, and I'd be a little cautious, a little alert, I should say, on the upset watch.
Yeah, I mean, you can get this at 3 possessions, right? At 14 and a hook. I mean, 3 possession game. I don't know. This to me is going to come down to, I think, talent. Who has Kentucky played? They've played nobody. And how good is Florida really? I mean, to me, if A equals B, B equals C, then A equals C. If we think Tennessee's, and we knew they were due to regress. I mean, they lost like 70% of their offense. So Florida goes and beats them up, and then now Kentucky beats up Florida. Is that actually worth that much? I don't know. And I think that this Georgia team, they've struggled in the SEC, but they haven't really struggled before that. Our model was on them against was on UAB when they played them. We did UAB did cover that game, but if you look at where UAB is, I believe they're kind of like a median team. It's not like they're some scrub. I don't know. To me, this, as you can see, this is completely a negative EV play, no matter what you do. So in my mind, like, if that's the case, then give me Georgia, because I'd rather be betting on Kirby Smart and a tried and true program that can turn it on. We've seen it before. And at some point, you have to believe if this is the number 1 ranked team, they're going to figure out how to do that. So why not this week? And why not against the Kentucky team that have they really played anybody? And the way I would answer that is maybe not. I don't think they really have played that great of competition.
I think,
but if you want to be fair, though,
likely.
Yeah,
not.
well, but
Go ahead,
yeah,
Steve.
if you want to be fair, though, sorry, there's a little bit of delay here, so sorry there, Kev. If you want to be fair, Georgia has the 113th ranked schedule so far going into the Kentucky game.
So who have
Kentucky's
they played?
100, right? And Kentucky's 119, right? So technically speaking, Georgia had the harder schedule, by 6 slots, but I mean that y'all neighbors, right? So we'll see. Now
look at that blue chip ratio.
Yeah. Well, listen. To your point, and this is completely just subjective conjecture, right? But for all the reasons you just gave of why Georgia, being the preseason number 1 and the current number 1, should be able to turn it on because that's what they're built for, and this is the game. It's a top 25 matchup. I can say the same thing about Kentucky of saying, hey, this is the king. You come for the king, you best not miss, right? So coming into the number 1 Georgia, like if I'm Kentucky, if I were ever going to play a good game, this is one I'm giving maximum effort. Now, clearly, we'll see what happens on the field. We'll see what the lines close at. But no matter what, I'm excited for this game.
I agree. I think it'll be a good game. And I do agree 14.5 feels awkwardly too many. But I've just seen too many times Kentucky get the shit beat out of them by Georgia. Maybe I'm conditioned here to not be able to kind of see the possibility here. I mean, a game I'm staying away with or away from. I'm not betting, but I agree. This is going to be a good game.
Yeah, it will. Okay, so SEC matchup number 1, I think. Yeah, SEC matchup number 2 for this week. So A&M and Bama. This one is interesting. I know we have our number puts it at 3, and this one technically was, Seth, correct me if I'm wrong, this one did have EV at the start, but I think by the time we ran the numbers and even put out the card, the market had moved.
No, the look ahead line had EV. So what the issue is there is, so you can go bet week 10 games right now if you want. Our database pulls in DraftKings odds, and they pull in look ahead lines. So what's happening is it's pulling a look ahead line, and calling it the opening, but then it's pulling in up to date data. So of course it's EV because you're looking at a line that didn't have the data, or it didn't have that much information, and you're betting into a market where you technically have more information. So that's why it showed EV. This opened at 3. It's sitting at 1.5, 2 right now. It looks like the market's kind of eating up that 3 for Texas A&M. It's a stay away for me. I'm not surprised to see this. I will say I am surprised that I talked about this at Open. This is a 24-point spread for Alabama last year with Milroe starting. So we're saying Alabama's 21 points worse than they were last year. That's pretty gnarly.
Well, I mean, some of that doesn't have to all be accounted for on the Bama side. Like, what about A&M? Like, how much better have they gotten relative to last year?
Have they gotten 21 points better? Or have they? Okay, so you're saying like maybe somewhere in the middle. Like, let's split the difference, basically.
Yeah, 60, 40, whatever, however you want to say.
Okay, that's fair.
Right?
That's fair. I think that's a fair point. But this is coming out of left field for me. I mean, maybe not. I mean, Steve did kind of say this is maybe the year that Alabama takes a step back, and I clowned him left, right, center. Like, so I guess I'm the real clown here. I am so perplexed about how Alabama does not have a quarterback. How can that happen? This is a program with all the resource in the world, and you can pay players, and they're known or rumored to always be paying players. So when they go to the big leagues and they can pay them as much money as they want, how do they not end up with a quarterback? How do they not have 5 quarterbacks? That's what I don't understand.
One of those weird anomalies. I don't know. Yeah, that's obviously been the problem for them all season long. I mean, you look at their offensive success rate on passing downs compared to A&M, 35% basically versus almost 48% for A&M. When they're getting behind and down in distance, it's not working out so well for them. And I think, I'm out.
I mean, look at standard downs.
Even standards too. Yeah, it's like,
I mean, I think this is, I didn't even think about this. To put this problem in perspective, Texas A&M's quarterback broke his foot, I believe, for the whole season. He's out. They were able to just bring in the next guy at A&M and won last week. That's how many quarterbacks they have. Alabama doesn't even have one good one. So I am just, how can this happen? And I'm just, I don't know. I mean, I know that really doesn't do anything for handicapping this game. To me, it's just the biggest blunder maybe of all time in college football. Like we look at Nick Saban as this like god of college football. How does this happen? I am just, I don't know. It's crazy to me. And I guess the argument would be that now that Milroe knows it's his job, he's going to blossom. I don't necessarily buy that because I don't think that it wasn't his job. I think that they got the shit kicked out of them by Texas and they freaked out. And he did all right against Ole Miss, but Ole Miss doesn't have a good defense. Who they played last week? They played Mississippi State, right? And they did pretty good. And Milroe had an all right game there. But I think what the game plan is going to be is just Milroe is going to create plays however he can, whether that's on his feet and through that, explosives happen, whether that's on his feet or throwing the ball because, the safeties bite and do all these different things. If gun to my head, I think I go ahead and just lay the especially now you can get -1.5, like just take the tried and true Alabama away. Like I clearly I'm on the same broken record here. Like take the
you're gonna die on this hill, man.
Well, yeah, because it's been such a profitable hill up until this point. Is the market just overreacting? I mean, look at the blue chip ratio. Yes, A&M has a good team, and they have a lot of recruits, but they had the #1 recruiting class last year. They didn't win. They played them tough with Milroe as backup. They think they beat Alabama 2 years ago. So I mean, maybe Jimbo can do it, but I don't know. This is just a really weird game to me. It's almost like the winner doesn't even win. It's just like the SEC West. Just nobody really wants to be an elite team.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen either. But this is if Alabama if they lose, if they just outright lose to A&M, you're gonna. I mean, I can already hear it now. It's the beginning of the end for Nick Saban. People were already talking about that after maybe the Texas loss too. But I don't want to call that per se, but you have to ask those questions because you take the team performance overall, then coupled with the comments we've been talking about. How can you not get a quarterback with those resources at your disposal? Something might be underlined in the belly of the beast. I'm not sure, man. So we'll see.
Steve, what made you I'm curious, like you kind of were calling this early in the season. What were the things you were looking at? Like what made you call this so early?
Yeah, I mean, you go back and we've seen the Alabama dominant teams of late, and they've been fueled with this great offensive play, primarily a quarterback. And we saw these rumors coming out of training camp about what was going on in Alabama, and are they really going to have a solidified #1? And I get it, it's college, there's a lot more flexibility at the quarterback position, but rarely does we don't know who our week 1 starters is going to be turn out well. Right. I mean, that for me, where there's smoke, there's fire. And that was definitely red flag #1. But, you look at this Bama team going through, their defense has gotten it together. That's been their saving grace. But to your point, Seth, even that when they beat up on Mississippi State, Milroe had 164 yards passing. He ran the ball and he scored 2 touchdowns on, running the ball. That was great for him. But you look at this A&M team, the difference between this and Ole Miss, and I was all over Ole Miss. I'm like, oh, this is the game that Ole Miss finally beats Bama. They upset them and they did it, right? But you pointed out perfectly, Seth, it's that defense. A&M has a much better defense than Ole Miss does, and they have much better offense, particularly than Bama does, at least so far. And so I think this has the recipe for disaster written all over it.
But can we even call it a disaster at a 1-point spread? Yes, culturally it feels like disaster, but it's literally a pick'em. It's a pick'em. No, that's the wild part of this.
Cultural disaster. Yes, you're right. Cultural disaster.
Yeah,
not bad.
Jimbo's, I guess, the first to take him down, right? He was the first coordinator to beat Saban, and I guess everybody's on the revenge tour this year. As he's keeping racking up them losses. Nick Saban is. Yeah, I don't know. This is a game. Am I crazy here? I'm not curious about. I don't really care about this game. Both of these teams seem irrelevant, which seems gnarly for me to even say. If Alabama wins this week, they're going to lose again. I strongly feel that. Whether they make it out the West, they're going to lose to Georgia. They're going to lose again. A 2-loss Alabama team, in my opinion, is the best case scenario for this season.
Yeah, and I'll take it a step further. I think this is the weakest ranked 11th team I've ever seen. So to your point about not caring, I agree with you. It's just it doesn't have that star factor. This is not the Bama team of old. This is not Bama the Great. It's Bama the Meh.
Yeah, Bama the Meh. I couldn't have said it better. Bama the Meh.
All good things just come to an end, man. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see if this is the week. Like I said, beginning of the end, man. I don't know.
Yeah, or does Nick Saban just come out and win by 20? I don't think so. I don't think they can. That's the more disturbing thing. I don't think they can.
Believe it when I see it. Okay. The Red River Rivalry is this week, baby. Oklahoma, Texas. If you're looking forward to any other game more than this one, then bullshit.
This is it.
This is it. This is the game this weekend. Okay. So we have been for pretty much every week, maybe except me personally for week 1. But we have been on Oklahoma either via the model has, or we have been just anecdotally and using mental models. Oklahoma has been sort of my unofficial darling of the season. Heading into Texas, epic showdown. I think first time or the highest ranked Red River Rivalry since like 2002, I believe. So a lot of exciting stuff gonna happen in this game. By far the game I'm most excited for. So, Seth, I mean, when you comparing these two teams and looking at the different analytics here, what stands out for you to scream that one of these two teams is gonna for sure maybe run away with this?
None, because I think these are really evenly matched teams. Now, I will say, as much as we love Oklahoma, and as much as even the model likes them this week, where we bet we're gonna, spoiler, it's an official model pick at 6.5. The one thing that we're going to find out here is strength of schedule. Texas has played many more stronger opponents up into this point. And in my opinion, they have the best win so far, going and dominating Alabama in Tuscaloosa. That being said, everything else is basically the same here. Their stats are pretty much equal. These are peers. If not identical, they're very close. You can even see their blue chip ratio. I mean, from a talent standpoint, this is as good as it gets. That being said, 2022, Texas won 49-0. I also think that's going to play a role here. I don't think Oklahoma forgets that. This is a huge game for both these teams every year. Texas State Fair. I mean, this is the real deal. College Game Day is going to be there. And so far, College Game Day, for the most part, is pretty much the dog or the visiting team is dominated. So if you're looking at angles or all you trend people out there, I want to know a bit more about that trend. We're high on Alabama, but it's not that we're not high on Texas. I only like that we're basically we're high on Oklahoma. Not that we're not high on Texas. Like, I think they're a very good team too. I think the winner of this team wins the Big 12. And I think I like Oklahoma here, and I'm not surprised the model likes it at 6.5. Why? Because it's just, these are very evenly scored teams. This could be a field goal game, right? And that's not crazy. And when you're getting 6.5 points, that could be enough. And this is college, right? You miss PAT, this could be a touchdown.
Okay, I have a question for you guys. So going back to the matchup maps for both of these teams, we can see pretty clearly that both defenses are relatively elite. Good defenses, EP per play basis, right? But my question to you guys is, which of the defenses is more sus or is more fake? Okay, because earlier today I inadvertently went down like Red River Rivalry Twitter rabbit hole.
Okay.
And shout out to Jaeger Crombie. He's a OU guy. He posts a lot of good college content. He's out there, but he had a post that just blew up. And I thought, this may mean something, this may mean nothing, but I want to get your guys' take on it. So Texas this season has faced Kansas's backup. They faced Baylor's backup, Wyoming's backup, 3-time transfer, and although he's having an individually good season, 3-time transfer JT Daniels. And we just got done talking about it, Jalen Milroe, who is underperforming in Bama's worst QB in God knows how many years. So,
well, what's that have to do with Quinn Ewers? Like, I mean,
so that's
he's had a good season.
It doesn't, but just the defense. Like, if one of these teams is going to cave, it's going to be, in my opinion, on the defensive side of the ball. I think both of these offenses are going to show out.
Yeah.
Which defense is going to crack?
That's interesting you say that, because look at that defensive explosive rate for Texas. They're giving up 3% of their plays as explosives to that litany of quarterbacks you just listed here. That's a little suspect to me then, if this is not necessarily the elite of the elite. We saw our model liked Rice week 1 against Texas, and they covered. They did struggle a little bit against Baylor. I mean, as much as people want to crown, Texas, Kansas was in that game, especially, in the first half. Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to play more than, I've learned using the model. When you build a model, believe it. I still truly believe that. So like, I'm not surprised the model likes the dog here, especially right around that 7, just because if they're so evenly matched, it can be a shootout, and it can be a 4-point game. It can be a 3-point game. And that's why I think we're seeing value. I don't think it's pontificating like anything too crazy. I don't think we're going to see a 49-0 outcome either way. I don't think that. I think these are 2 evenly matched teams. And I think this is going to be more like 2 years ago, where it was just tit for tat, or 3 years ago, I think it was, where Caleb Williams got his first start, where they sat Spencer Rattler, and it was like I think they scored like 100 points combined or something like that. That's what I think is going to happen this week.
Yeah, I echo that. I mean, really, for me, I want to take, what we say, go nuclear, right? I want to take each individual team's total over, right? Because this game is always, this is always back and forth. But to your point, Kev, that is a pretty interesting thing there. I mean, you look at these things, to Seth's point earlier, Texas at strength of schedule is top 10, going into this game. I think they're number 9, where Oklahoma was 16th or something, which I think is surprisingly high given the name brand of teams they faced so far. But yeah, I think that definitely opens up some question. But I think no matter what, all roads are pointing towards a shootout, not a Red River showdown, a Red River shootout. And so you give me that many points being scored back and forth with the college kickers and this and that. Yeah, defense suspect or not, I got to go with the dog here if you're going to give me almost a full touchdown.
Yeah. And just to counterpoint, I guess my original point, Oklahoma, for what it's worth, I mean, come on, it's not like they faced a bunch of juggernauts on the offensive side of the ball either. Like they're basically going against Cabbage Patch Dolls quarterbacks.
And Iowa State's quarterback was able to get more than one explosive on them last week. I mean, enough that it was kind of a sweat. Like, oh, they can backdoor here any second. And I think Iowa State has like a really good wide receiver, if I'm not mistaken. Where is Iowa State on the matchup map? I'm curious to understand Iowa that State, a little bit.
Do they play? Yeah. Did they play this week?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so good defense, bad offense.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know. I will say if the model is blind, it's blind in strength of schedule so far in how these aggregate statistics have been averaged out, right? It does adjust for the numbers specifically you're getting, but the actual statistics in the model are unadjusted numbers. So, I think that's the only blind spot here. And I could see, Texas won by 10 or maybe 14 because of that. But I don't think that this is the case. I mean, you can see the blue chip of Oklahoma. This is a legit team. And reminder, Kansas has a blue chip ratio of 0. Okay, so these are a different level of talent team. And we were at that Alabama game. I mean, it's not like Alabama was out of that game. It got out of hand at some point, but like Alabama was hanging in there with basically no quarterback and a good defense. So I think Texas is susceptible here. I would not be surprised if Oklahoma wins. I won't be surprised if Texas wins. I think that's why the 6.5 is kind of a good number to grab, and why the model likes it at that number. As you can see here, it doesn't like it very much at 6. That 6.5 is so crucial. That bump is, and then obviously then to get even more nerdy here, if you convert 6.5 to 7, your win percentage doesn't change. You just convert some of your loss to a push. And that's fine, but like, you don't really care about that. You care about your win percentage, right? Your win percentage stays the same at 6.5 or 7. So model loves it at 7. I bet it. I love this bet. I'm high on Oklahoma. I'm going to take my own advice I've been giving out. This is the time to beat. If you want Oklahoma futures tickets for either make the playoff or win the national championship, this is the time to bet it. Bet it before this game, because if Alabama beats Texas, those are no longer going to be. Those are going to be very cheap. You're going to be getting, plus. I'm sure it'll be divided in 2. Whatever your odds are currently, if they beat Texas, will be divided in 2, in my opinion.
You've said it twice now.
Wait.
You must. You're
Yeah.
on Bama, man. You got Bama on the mind. You said if Alabama beats Texas. So
Oh, my bad. Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Oklahoma. If Oklahoma beats Texas, this is
we're
the time
picking
to
up what
get
you're
your
putting
ticket.
down, though.
Yeah.
Wait,
No, I
hold
appreciate
on.
that.
Wait, Kev. Let him say it one more time for the TikTok soundbite.
Wait, which
That's
one?
right.
Oklahoma versus Texas or Alabama versus Texas?
Okay.
No, I like Oklahoma. I think this is the week to get Oklahoma futures tickets. This is the time to do it because if they beat Texas, those are going to be all the value will be evaporated. You won't be able to get what you can get now. And I think we've been high on them. This is the last week you're going to be able to get them, quote unquote, on sale. The market will be buying high after this week if they beat Texas. So if you believe they will, now's the time to buy.
Yeah, Kev, can I make one last point real quick? Can you go back to that matchup map? So to your point about which defense is more suspect, just going to do a little bit of a background here. So you look at Oklahoma's schedule, right? We talk about Iowa State, subpar offense, or so I say, sub-average offense, right? You've got Tulsa, sub-average. They're actually in the quadrant of woe, right? You've got Cincy, who's right next to Tulsa down there in the quadrant of woe, right? And then you have SMU, which is that is the best offensive team they've placed, or the best offensive team they faced so far from the EPA standpoint, and they're straddling average here. So this should be interesting. I mean, I think both offenses are going to be something neither defense is prepared for, and we'll see how they respond. This is why I love this idea of a Red River shootout.
So quick caveat to that analysis, though. Remember that when we're looking at it at this point in time, they are a portion of where they are is because of what Oklahoma did to them, right? So they are obviously not their full average because they have more games than that, but their placement is very much at least somewhat affected by what Oklahoma did to that team. So, right, was Iowa State, a week before as bad offensively, or did Oklahoma cause that, disruption, right? That's the kind of main thing here.
Yeah, and 1 out of 4, we'll see what that happens. But I'm just hyping myself up because I want to see 85 combined points tomorrow morning before lunch.
No, I'm with you. This is going to be a really good game. I'm super excited.
Yeah. All right, let's break down one more big matchup here for week 6. We have Louisville, maybe one of the surprise teams in some eyes, and heading to Notre Dame. Notre Dame, we talked about a little bit, kind of escaping by the hair in their chinny chin chin against Duke last week with that late game drive. But to what you said earlier, Seth, about the Bama and Texas A&M game, I have very similar feelings about this game in terms of like the watchability. I'm just like, meh, I don't know. I don't feel like the need to watch it. I'm on the complete
opposite. I'm on the complete opposite page there because
why?
Because Louisville has a chance to be one of the best teams in the ACC, and this is the week they're going to do it, right? They've gotten more and more momentum. You said that Notre Dame made it out barely. Louisville made it out against NC State barely. And in fact, they were losing by 13, I think, with like in the fourth quarter, if I'm not mistaken. So, no, that's not true. They had a horrible first half, but I think Louisville can be a really, really good team in the ACC. They have the blue chip ratio to do it. They have the offense to do it. It's can they kind of get over this hump here? Because this is the biggest test, in my opinion, that they've had so far. Notre Dame obviously made it out from Duke, but we can see where Louisville's at here. This is also going to be a really good team. So I'm more, I don't say eager beaver to watch it, but I'm really, really, really excited to see what we learn from it, especially if Louisville upsets Notre Dame. They're in the position that they could potentially win the ACC. And I think that's a really interesting thing for college. It's really interesting for ACC. And also I'm interested to see how Notre Dame kind of bounces back, or I don't even know if you can call it bounce back. They barely eked out that survival win, and they lost the week before. Can they continue the momentum here? Because Notre Dame, you can make the case for it. This is another signature win. If they can go and beat Louisville handedly, are they putting their resume together for the college playoff? And we can see a Notre Dame in there. So I don't know. I think this game, I could see what you're saying, like from excitability, from the implications. I think this game actually may have more implications on potential playoff teams than the Alabama game, which is crazy to say.
Yeah, no, that's fair counterpoint. Yeah, I guess I'm doing the classic like look ahead because you know who Notre Dame plays after this? They play USC. So in my mind, I'm like, all right, that's where you separate the boys from the men type of thing.
Okay.
Yes, if they end up falling to Louisville 100%, then the conversation is over before it even starts type of thing.
Classic look ahead.
Classic look ahead. So yeah, good point.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, I'm kind of with you in some respects, Kev. You know, I'm looking forward to this game. We're going to see what Notre Dame is really made out of. I was a little bit disappointed. I didn't get to watch the actual game last week, but you know, coming off that close loss to Ohio State, really this was Notre Dame's chance to quote unquote get right and go out there and dominate. And you really just didn't see that, at least from the box score and from the highlights I've seen. And so you look at this game. This is a top 20. I mean, Louisville's number 25. This is a top 25 matchup going into this week. Now, it's not 10 versus 9 like USC is going to be, you know, the week after, but this is really Notre Dame's chance to nut up or shut up, right? Because if they lose this game, their playoff chances are gone, right? They have no bowl, they have no conference championship. You know, this is it. Even if they beat USC, you're still a 2-loss team that gets really hard to justify. So this is quite frankly their postseason life on the line. And then with Louisville, kind of like we were talking about earlier, if you're going to make a resume, if you're going to make a standout statement that, hey, Louisville is here, this is the game that you do it. And Notre Dame does not seem like the near invincible beast they were to start the season off. They seem to have fallen back to earth and fallen back mightily. So this is anyone's game, in my opinion. A one-score game, I think anything goes.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And we were able to get this at 7. I think we're going to talk about the model here in a second, but when you get it at 7, like this becomes a no-brainer bet. Like, Louisville's just playing too good offensively. I mean, maybe there's some tape based off what NC State was able to do last week to shut them down. They weren't able to get a lot of explosives in the first half, but they came out in the second half and they did what they had to do to make it out alive. And their defense even showed up there in the second half. So I don't know. I'm really curious about this game. I'll definitely be watching this game.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. I rescind my initial comment, and I appreciate the implications angle, because that you're right. That is really at the heart of this matchup. But I just don't think this is going to be a good game. It's not going to be aesthetically pleasing. I have a weird
it'll probably be ugly. Yeah. But I mean, Louisville is these are both two potent offenses. So there is a potential that you get whatever the equivalent of the East Coast Red River Rivalry is. Why did they switch that? It used to be the Red River Shootout, which is much easier to say. Oh, Showdown? I think it was Shootout. That's why they're like, oh no, we can't say shooting, you know, all the white people are gonna be scared.
That's probably what happened, actually. You're probably not far off.
Or there was an actual shootout. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Speaking of shoot your shot, though, let's just do it, baby. Let's talk about week 6 predictions for the model here. So a couple of interesting things that maybe some will notice, or maybe that our board members have noticed on the website. We have the caveat up top there that, you know, we're playing anything that's 2% EV or greater. And there's obviously a few games on here where the EV listed is less than that, but they are playing nonetheless. So Seth, do you want to just quickly explain why that is? Or
Sure. Yeah, it's not that they're less than 2% EV at what we bet. It's that the number that we got makes it 2%. So what does that mean? When we give out all of our openers, we give out every game that has a spread, which is the vast majority of them, and then we hit the marketplace and we basically shop the line. And so there's some situations you can see there's a number of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that we were able to shop the line basically and create a 2% EV bet. So some examples of Louisville opened at 6, but moved. There was a 7 for a blip, and we were able to bet it. So that's getting it at 7 makes it a 2% bet. Oklahoma, we already talked about. We were able to get that at 6.5, which made it a 2%. So on and so forth. For our board members, they know we put this on the website as well and tell them, hey, bet it at this book at this number. It will be, it will be a bet. So that's kind of why there's a little bit of a discrepancy. But yeah, the actual EV we're betting is consistent there. It is at least 2%. It's just these were the consensus spreads that were pulled in, and we were able to shop that number and get a better number.
Okay. Well, shout out. So by the time people watch this, I think we will already have unfortunately probably one X mark on here. Jacksonville State is as we are recording this playing Middle Tennessee and not covering. Let's put it that way. So,
Okay. Oh,
but besides
23-7.
that, yeah. So
second quarter though. It's the second quarter. Kevin's out here hating.
All right, yeah.
We got 4.5. We can cover this. No
All right.
problem.
Was anybody set or Steve? Were you surprised by any of these outputs on here, or if not, just which one has caught your eye? Which one you're glad that the model has picked up on?
Yeah. Definitely surprised in a good and bad way. So the good is, again, I love the Oklahoma here, and I get it. It's going to be this big, River showdown, shootout, rivalry, whatever you want to call it. I get Texas coming in, with a higher ranked team and the big bad wolf, but I love the value on Oklahoma. So love that. What scares the shit out of me though is this ASU Colorado game. Particularly ASU, and not just because of what we saw Colorado do in its bounce back game against USC, even though they still lost, they hung neck and neck with SC. What scares me more is ASU and this rotating quarterback door that we have here. Drew Pine started in that game they ended up covering a couple of weeks ago, and now it's Trenton Bourgo's back in starting this week because Drew Pine got hurt. So there's just a lot of uncertainty in here, but that we'll see what happens. And then Colorado, again, we know their defense is a little suspect, but that offense, dear Lord. So regardless, like the bets are already in, I'm definitely riding with it. But I will be waking up 9 a.m. PST, Arizona time, skipping college game day, and just going in straight for the fireworks.
Oh my God.
You're missing out. You're missing 3 hours of quality program.
No foreplay, no nothing. Steve just all business, man.
They got their own intro song. Think about that. They could take a whole 3-minute intro. I mean, you're just missing that out every Saturday. I mean, life could be better. I mean,
listen, I don't want that foreplay. I want that raw pace game, man.
All right. Give me the matchup map real quick, Kevin. I mean, I gotta push back a little here on this Colorado. Okay. Colorado, good offense. Are we sure about that? Good defense. Are we sure about that? I mean, and we over and over and over last week hit SC is not good on defense. SC is not good on defense. For all intent and purpose here, ASU and SC are basically the same defense from where they're at on the matchup map. And to me, that is where this game is going to be played. And we were able to get the number at 6. Now, I'm not saying that Colorado can have explosive plays. We saw that, but I think SC is a little bit more susceptible to that. And where did that game end last week? 7, right? We got a 6. We're right in there, right in that outcome, in my opinion. So I'm not saying this is a slam dunk bet. We think Colorado is a median to below average team, and Arizona State's that as well. And I think 6 is just too many. So I don't know about that. I mean, the dogs are barking this week, so let's just hope that the pound is closed, because I mean, we have 8 dogs and 1 favorite. And we're not necessarily saying any upsets here, but I don't really feel that uncomfortable with most of these. I mean, we either have small dogs. The one I hate the most is probably Arkansas Ole Miss. I fear that Ole Miss can just score too many points, and their defense sucks, and they'll let Arkansas score 35, but they'll win 52 or something like that. That's probably where I think the most uncomfortableness is, and we got that number at 12. And it's sitting right at around 11 and a half, 12. So that's probably my least favorite.
But so one quick point on that, I think again, some nerves, maybe uncomfortableness with a couple of them, just based on mental models or whatnot. But in terms of process driven, outcomes or expectations, like we are continuing to see decent CLV on a lot of these still. So win or lose over the aggregate in the long run, I think we have a signal, or we're getting a suggestion from the market that the process of identifying value in these games is working.
Every single bet on this card has closing line value except Ole Miss Arkansas, and it technically has 0.5 points value, which I won't really chalk up here because it's not really a key number. But we've seen at least 1 full point, if not more, on every single one of these bets. including the one we're getting our shit kicked in Jacksonville State. We got that 4.5. It closed at 3.
Right. Exactly right. So, all right. One last thing for you guys. We talked about it briefly, didn't really say it, but this was one of my other bets that I'm going to take this weekend. I love the points, the total over for the Red River Rivalry. I think it's 60.5 currently. I think it opened at like 62, went down to 58, and it's kind of settled at 60.5 here. But I mean, we talked about it. That's one that I'm going to be playing for a unit as well. I think there's going to be points. I think if either side is going to buckle for those teams, it's going to be on the defensive side. I think the offenses will show out, baby. Show up and show out. What about you guys? Anything else that you're looking at or taking this weekend?
I'm going to look one up real quick. I'm going to try to find the odds. You go, Steve.
Yeah, no, like I said, I'm definitely taking the over in the Red River shootout, just like you are. And again, I'm going to double dip on each team total. I mean, I'm with Seth. I don't think we're going to see another 49-0 blowout either direction. I think both teams are going to put up points. And so if I can get both teams at 16.5, the 7-point spread, right? So you're looking at someone being around 24.5, 31.5, somewhere around there, right? Maybe a little bit lower. I'm both teams are scoring 28 points. I feel pretty confident in that. So
33.5 for Texas, 26.5 for Oklahoma is the. All right, I can't find the odds on here, but if I can find it, I will bet this. And it's a hypothesis I haven't talked about yet, but I've been mental modeling it and doing a little analysis. Teams that are very, very evenly matched, betting over the game goes to overtime. These are pretty high odds. Now, obviously, you don't need to be right very often. But basically, the hypothesis goes like something like this. You have a shootout. You have 2 evenly matched teams. Well, what ends up happening? They just shoot out. The last person with the ball scores, and that sometimes is to send it to overtime, not to necessarily win. You go to overtime, the fun continues. Helps your guys' overs, but I do think this is something I've been tracking much more deeply in the NFL, and I think it's more applicable there, just because the talent is more evenly distributed. But I think it could easily happen in this game where you just have a crazy shootout and you just find yourself in overtime. It's not that crazy. I can't find the odds on it here, but they're usually, from what I've studied in the NFL, they're usually like plus 1,000 or greater.
Yeah. So are we just going full triple dip on this game? We got Oklahoma, we got over points, and we got to go to overtime. Is that what's going to happen?
I like the over. I like this, guys. I like the over.
Okay.
I will say, from my mental model in tracking this, and again, this is mostly in the NFL, because I've really been curious about this effect. These teams that, and we've talked about this before with spreads of like 1. You see close games, but you also see blowouts. And I think it has something to do with variance and the fact that they are so evenly matched that you get these weird results. Now in college, I think that you could just see they're so evenly matched that you stall on offense because the defenses are so good. But I'm with you guys here. Like, if you're going to bet over under in this game, you got to bet the over. Like, it's just crazy not to.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Going to be a good weekend. Yeah, we'll be back next week talking about, breaking down some of these key matchups, some of these teams. I mean, because this is another one of those weeks. Obviously, conference play is heating up, so a lot of the boys from the men, contenders, pretenders, right, start to come apart here and start to separate themselves. So should be another fun weekend. We got a big slate like we talked about in the model, but very, very excited to see how it all plays out. So I think that'll do it for us, boys and girls. Thank you for tuning in. Please give us a like. Please give us a follow on any of our social medias. We're at Bully the Board everywhere you see it there on the screen. Really helps us a lot. Just trying to reach the good folks out there as far and as wide as we possibly can. So would really greatly appreciate all that. Shout out to Unabated real quick we've mentioned them a couple times off and on, and we're in the near future are going to have Tom Viola from Unabated as a guest on the podcast, talking about a whole host of different things. So stay tuned for that. But they have a great platform. We've partnered with them this week or this season. So if anyone is interested, check out the resource tab on our website, learn a little more about them, use code BTP to sign up. Very valuable tool. All right, boys. Until next week, huh?
Yes, sir.
Until next week.
Take care.
We'll see you.
Let's go.